Another person we've taken from another city. Thankfully, Jerry brings a lot of experience and talent as a paramedic and as a firefighter, a lot of experience from back east, not only here, but also back east. He's here with his family, his 2 kids, and we're excited to have Jerry working here and living here in this community. So he lives on the east side, so being here and working for the community that he lives in is another attribute that Jerry brings. So we're just glad to have him here. Awesome.
No pressure, Jerry. He nailed the first one. All right. Yeah. Point. Okay. Jerry Brown. All right. I do solemnly swear. That I will, to the best of my ability. And with the highest level of integrity. Serve the people of Spanish Fork City. And preserve, protect. And defend the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Utah. Congratulations, Jerry. A lot of good things happening in our community, but nothing seems to feel better than having public safety personnel and their families join us and welcome into the fold. We wish you the best of luck, and thank you for your hard work day in, day out of keeping our city safe. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, that'll take us to another cool thing that we get to do once in a while here in council meeting, and we're going to honor the employees of the second quarter. So there should be some directors, managers of departments here that are going to introduce our employees of the quarter, and it looks like some of their families are here too. Who's going first?
Chief Hales.
Okay, Chief Hales, you're up first.
Snooze, you lose.
Jake.
Beat someone to it.
Doesn't Jake know that? Yeah, you're
Gotta be
always
on,
first
Johnny,
responder.
Johnny on the spot. Yeah,
First.
always ready. Council, mayor, city staff. I'd like Christina Reed to come forward. I want to thank the directors and the staff of Spanish Fork City for appointing Captain Reed as the employee of the quarter this quarter. Captain Reed has been a volunteer, now full-time, for a total of 25 years to citizens of Spanish Fork and Spanish Fork Fire and EMS. Captain Reed is the wife of Dallas, who is here with us, and children, 5 children: Cutter, Jordan, Dawson, Kennedy, and Gentry. Over this last quarter, Christina played a very large part in getting our paramedic license, helping hire 6 paramedics, ordering and putting together all of the paramedic supplies, getting them onto the apparatus so that we were ready to roll July 1, all of which was very stressful and at times could be very time intensive. And so she just nailed it. She stepped up in a big way and got us to the point where we are with the paramedic program. I'd be doing a disservice too if I didn't also point out the fact that Christina, over the last year and a half, not only did this portion this last quarter, but she held a department together, a division together in a time of change at a very challenging time. And it didn't go without notice. It was a difficult time for Christina and for the entire division to go through that challenge while leadership was changing. And Christina stepped up and not only did her job duties as a captain, but also took on those of a deputy chief and continued to run that organization until leadership was placed in there. So she is a valued employee of the city. She's a valued employee of our department. We're thankful that she's able to be here with us tonight to be honored. It goes more than just what I said, right? She does way more than what I just pointed out, but we're grateful that she was nominated today for the Employee of the Quarter. Congratulations.
Good job, Captain.
Congratulations.
Good work. There's something for you right here. And did you want to say anything?
Say something? Come on, it's your turn. Millions of people watching.
Just thank you. What an honor. Sorry, I'll get emotional, but just an honor to serve my community for 25 years and to work in a great place in my hometown where I raised my family. And I didn't get here alone. So I'm thankful for all those people who have been on my journey and helped me along the way. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to introduce you to Garrett Elmer. Garrett's been with Spanish Fork City for just over 21 years. I'll go through a few things he does for us in the power department, but he does everything well and has for 21 years. And he's not only a great human being, he's a great employee and a great example for our department. So he is my assistant superintendent and has been in that role for about a year and a half, just about 2 years. He is responsible for a lot, right? He's got budget to worry about, he's got projects to worry about, he's got the crews to kind of outline and get organized. So he does a whole lot, but especially the last 6 to 8 months, he's done a whole lot of good, and I put him on some pretty tough timelines for some agreements we're under to take over customers that you guys are probably aware of, that we have a year to do. And I gave him a time clock at 9 months, and he is 80%, just over 80% complete on those projects. And so he does a great job. He's in charge of all our city projects. We're doing 3 substation improvements, 1 new one, 2 expansions. So the city's growing, as you guys know. We need to keep up with the demand for power, and so he's responsible for all that. So he is a great guy and not only a good friend, but a great employee. So Garrett Elmer.
Awesome.
No, and I'll just echo a little bit of what Christine said. You know, I don't get her alone. I've worked with great people. I've been here for 21 years, and I've enjoyed working here. It's a great place to be, and I'd like to thank those that I work with and my family also. So, thank you.
Thank you, Garrett.
Congratulations.
Well, Mayor, City Council, I'll get to introduce the 3rd employee of the quarter. This is Sean Beecher. You guys all know him. He's the GIS administrator for Spanish Fork City. He's been here for 19 years. He started working for the city 1 week after he married his wife Angela, which is in the crowd. And he has 4 beautiful daughters that range from the ages of 8 to 16. Got that right? One thing about Sean is he's a huge fan of BYU and the Utah Jazz. He's laughing, but he loves to go and root for his teams, and to the point where he'll lose his voice. And if you've ever had an opportunity to go to a game with him, do it. It's quite the experience. And let him drive. A funny story about Sean is he went to a BYU game with Chad Hill. He works for Provo now, but he was our city surveyor back before he went to Provo. And he said it was one of the most amazing things he ever seen is Sean never sat down. He cheered the whole game, and when they got done, Sean says, "Now, where'd we park?" and Chad says, I met you here. So they spent like over an hour looking. He was so excited to go to the game that they couldn't find where they parked. So yeah, if you have the opportunity to go, everything inside of that, he's great. He's on the UGIC board for the Utah. Sorry, I got to put my glasses back on. So Sean currently sits on the UGIC board for Utah Geographic Info Council and is very well known through the industry for the GIS program, which he's helped establish here at the city. Spanish Fork's GIS is second to none. I mean, that's pretty much known throughout the state of Utah that we have one of the top GIS systems there is. Our imagery is always up to date. We have over 120 apps, and every department is using the GIS one way or another. We even track the snow plows when it snows. It hasn't snowed in a while, but we can even track where the snow plows have been, and it's been a great resource for things like that and any other aspect that we seem to find a new way to use it every time we meet. Sean is an awesome example of what it means to be a great employee. He cares about those around him. He looks for ways to help others. He excels in developing new GIS tools while maintaining all that is currently being used. So that's Sean.
And then if we can get the employees of the quarter and then their families to come, oh, Sean's got to give a speech. After Sean's speech, to come stand up here, we'll get a picture with the council.
It's almost this. I just want to thank the council and administration for their role in supporting what we do. Without that support, we wouldn't be able to build all these tools, make all these apps that make it possible for everybody to do their jobs easier, faster, better. And so that's a huge part of that. And all of the administration and staff, we have a wonderful, wonderful group of employees, and the things that we're able to do, it's a community effort, and I appreciate everything that everybody does.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Tell you one story about Sean. We're here one night, and I'm trying to work on some computer stuff. And I'm sure he thinks in his mind, just Google it, you idiot. You're younger than I am. But he helped me set up a computer. And like I look at the clock, and it's like 6:30. I'm like, I'm sure he was supposed to be home at 5, but he's here helping the mayor. So I appreciate you. Good work. Good work,
Mayor.
everybody.
Real quick, I met Sean a long, long time ago when I was working for Quest Communications. Back then when it was really important to have E911 addresses. If I called him or he called me, it always got done. I didn't have to call back, and it was great to work with Sean because that doesn't happen too often between large corporations. But it was great to work with you, Sean, through those years. I hope I returned it, boys. Thanks.
Employees of the quarter and their families. Is that what we want, Tyler?
That'd be great.
All the employees of the quarter and their families. One big happy family.
One big happy family.
And I'll share the photo with you guys.
What if they don't want it?
If they don't want it,
Just wondering. Go that way, just a scotch.
Yeah. This way. Come this way.
So we're in the middle.
3, 2, 1. You get one more. Got it.
We're the new guys, but still, you can.
Mayor, maybe while the room is settling back, would you put that? Maybe while the room is settling back, just I think today's kind of a fun to notice. We've got the 3 employees that we recognized have between them, I think, about 60 years of experience with us. And we benefit greatly from that continuity, what they learn in the first few years of their job, and then they add upon, and between Christina and Garrett and Sean, these are 3 amazing employees. And we made a tweak, you'll notice, right? We're not just recognizing one employee, but now 3 each quarter. And as a group, we decided we're just not able to recognize all the employees that we really need to, that are doing amazing things. And just this last 3-month period, the things that these 3 employees have accomplished are just outstanding. And we're really grateful for them specifically as we honor them today, and for all the employees. We really have great employees that work here, and it's a joy to do what we do with them and just tackle the problems that come up, that seem like they come up every week, right? Something new, a challenge, and then they solve it. they just put their heads together in their work groups and whatnot and solve the challenges. It's really a joy.
Yep. Very good way to put it. Public service and long years of public service from all three of those employees, and that's the secret in Spanish Fork. So thank you so much, and thanks to their families, Christina, Garrett, and Sean. Okay, that takes us to item 4 in our agenda, public comments. This is any general public comments to the council and mayor that anybody's here to make, not for a specific public hearing item, but any general public comments anybody would like to make. Please come up and address the mayor and council. Nobody's racing. Okay, public comments. That takes us to council comments. I'm not sure who I called on first last time, but you're to my left, so maybe
Okay.
you'll go first. Councilwoman Beck.
I'll start. I have 3 things, and I have some pictures, so wherever Tyler starts. So this last Saturday was the Children's Fair on Main, and I took my grandson down there. And I know Emily Harriman had the booths all organized and wanted to limit it to like 65. I believe she ended up having 84 booths that wanted to be there. And these kids are fun. If you haven't gone down, they're learning personable skills. They're counting money back. They're taking Venmo. It's really fun. And so I'm just thankful for the opportunity that these kids have to learn these skills to interact with adults. I found it very admirable. It was fun. Okay, and then last Monday night, a week ago, was the year-end summer library party. And they had so many participants. That night, this was for the kids. I believe there were 300 kids that came and participated that night. The Youth City Council here is always there to volunteer their talents and time. We appreciate that. And I believe they nearly tripled their goal. I think their goal was to read 20,000 books, and they read 58,000 books. And that's everyone that was in the program, teens, adults. So kudos to the library. And then yesterday, we were able to go to the groundbreaking ceremony. Here we are for the new wastewater treatment plant. And Brandon, I'm sure, will have more on that, but maybe we could just hone in on this one picture. And Brandon, when it's your turn, will you just explain that shot?
Let's
Okay.
don't. Let's just let it go.
Oh, I think it needs some explanation. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman Beck. All right, Councilman Gordon, explain yourself.
Well,
What's your comments?
I could say something about it not being a cheap project, but I won't do that. But they gave us gloves before we touched the suck trucks things, right?
Vacuum truck.
Vacuum trucks, thank you. Chad's not wearing a glove
I
there.
can see that.
So need I say any more? This is again, as it was said at the groundbreaking, it's not anything really like on the surface, like exciting to the public, but it's one of the most important things that you know that when you flush, it goes somewhere. And so Mapleton, Mapleton's mayor's there with Mayor Mendenhall, and they have a percentage of this project. If you don't know, Mapleton also uses our sewer treatment facility. So this partnership is good, it's strong. For the last 3 to 4 years, I've sat on the water quality board at the state level, an invitation from the governor to sit there and discuss our wastewater and what happens with the quality of our water that are going back into our bodies of water, our rivers, our streams, and our lakes. And this upgrade to the membrane system is huge for Spanish Fork and Mapleton. It helps our us not only put cleaner water back into Utah Lake, but gives us an option to also use that for secondary water as well. Foresight, just being out in front of things like this, I made the comment that like 10 years ago, we were down at the old sewer treatment facility and almost looking at each other like, really, this is just kind of a pipe dream, silly. But here we are, breaking ground on it. And it's going to be a great facility and asset to our city. So thanks, Stacy, for bringing up that. Farmers market's in full speed. There's some cute kids that are, husking corn, and there's some great local farmers, local produce. So please go down there Saturday mornings all the way till the end of October and support the local farmers that are down there selling their produce. I'm very proud that our farmers market has not turned into more than just produce. It's not trinkets, it's not pillowcases, it's produce. And we fought hard to keep it that way, and it's been awesome. So down by the Justice Center, down by the police station on West Main, it's awesome. Last Friday we had the opportunity to mosey on over to Vineyard. That is Mayor Fulmer of Vineyard City. They were excited to cut a ribbon on a new track station, and she couldn't help herself but take a selfie with me and Mayor Mendenhall. It's kind of
It's a thing.
It's a thing. And so I just was excited when Mayor said, "Hey, you want to ride over with me?" And we don't have borders. We support other cities and other mayors. And one thing that I think Mayor Mendenhall does well is he has great relationships with all of the mayors throughout Utah County, and that helps us as a city. And so kudos to you, Mayor, for that opportunity. And then this picture is near and dear to my heart. This is Ellie Mon holding her grand champion in the Senior Showman, and holding the sign is Ashley Olson. And I snuck away from the farmer's market and got down there, and this young lady was competing in her last county fair. So many people think that the county fair is just a demolition derby, and gosh, it chokes me up because this guy from North Carolina is flown in to judge these animals, and he's walking back and forth, and he's doing his thing, and it gets down to these final two kids, and I'm watching her. And if you know her and know that it's her local, she's from Benjamin, this is her county fair, and this is her last one as a senior at Spanish Fork High. And man, when he picked her, and she just couldn't fight it back anymore either. Like, she just, tears came to her, and I kind of looked around and I'm like, wow, what's going on? This is so neat. And if we forget about these important things that happen in our community, we're in trouble. And these kids are teaching us how it's done. So I'm so proud of Ellie and her grand champion there. And so I just wanted to share that with you, Mayor and Council, and a lot of great things going on at our county fair. So if you didn't make it down this year, we invite you next year to please go down, and we do things like the Derby to get you down to look at the animals, and to go in and check out the quilts and the pie that someone made. It may seem, trivial, but it's important to a lot of people, and it's important to me. So I wanted to share that with you. And then I just also just wanted to touch on, we were able to attend the Parks and Recreation Steak Fry. I appreciate all of our coaches. They feed them a nice dinner on last Monday night, get them a steak, and let them know that they're appreciated for helping to train our youth in the systems of, Little League and soccer and all of the things. That is a huge sacrifice that parents take on to coach their little ones. And so thank you to all of those that help us there. Sorry, Mayor, that was long-winded, but
Nope. Good-winded.
That's all I have.
Good-winded. Thank you. Councilman Argyle.
Thank you, Mayor. So the groundbreaking that we did yesterday for the sewer plant that Brandon mentioned, what a great step. That's took a lot of years to get to that point. A few people mentioned, God, if we couldn't have done it a few years ago, it would have been much cheaper, but that's not the case. But we're getting it done now, and it will be an up-to-date, awesome sewer plant. Just a note of my own, that's my wife's grandpa's ground. I hauled a lot of hay on that ground. And Seth lives on another piece of her grandpa's ground, so we kind of give our all to get some of these good people and get a good sewer plant back here. So anyway, that was a neat thing. The thing I couldn't figure out is a couple of people put that glove on and then had one glove on and grabbed with both hands. So I'm not really still sure what the glove was for. I washed my hands afterwards, whatever. Anyway, so I have the opportunity to ride the train up to Salt Lake a couple of times. I work with the choir at Temple Square up there, and lately they've been stopping at Vineyard, and there's been nobody getting on. So I hope that now that they did the grain baking, I kept thinking, why are we stopping? Because I'm in a hurry to get up there. And they'd stop, and they'd announce it, and then they'd stop. There'd be nobody on the platform, so, and it is out of way from there, though I'm sure they'll build around it, but it is a neat thing to have that train come to your community. So that was pretty cool to see that. Thanks, Vineyard, I'm sure they'll make good use of that. Just a note, the Rotary, next week, they've got a grant to plant some trees, and they're going to plant some trees in our community up around Cerro Bonita, the park, and the school up there here in a couple of weeks. And just wanted to note that because I thought that was pretty cool because we are a tree city, and there's not too many trees around that park up there. It needs a few of them, so that will be a good thing. Our youth council, thanks to them during Fiesta Days, they are awesome council. They are there all the time to help and volunteer and work. And they officially had their first meeting, got back together on Thursday. There's 42 of them. Our council is always large, and there's such some good kids there that are ready to serve and willing to serve. Tara has been one of the, I guess you'd call you a counselor? Advisor, okay, for 10 years. We hired a new one. We have 3 people, Becca, Heidi, and what's the other one? Becca, Heidi, and Laurie, yeah. So we have 3 advisors, and they do an awesome job, and it was great to get back and have them, and they have some things left over from last year they're going to follow up. So looking to hear some things from our youth council, and it's 40's a lot to have, and they do such an awesome job. I was also, as Stacy mentioned, I love that youth market over there. It's just fun to go over there and wander. Even if you notice, Stacy had lots of bags. Bless her heart, but you get over there and you see, yeah, you get over there and you see some of these ideas and these things that these kids have come up with and do, and they're, of course, their parents and everybody help them, but it's just great to see those youth over there and make a little bit of money and projects and their advertisements. They always have good, colorful, bright advertisements, and some of them are pretty young. And it's just an awesome little thing. I'm so tickled that we offer that so that they have, and to have geez, I'm going to go blank. Who's our Park and Recs that was over it?
Oh, Emily.
Emily, good laws. She was so excited, but she was going to kind of cut it off at a number, and she kept getting phone calls, and she did say, next year, I'm just going to open it up, and 125, and if I get 90, okay, if I get 125, great. And so she just kept getting calls, more and more of the youth wanting to get it. And she even said, I had parents calling me saying, they're all ready, I failed, I forgot to call and do the application. So the kids are on the ball, the parents need to get stepping up to it. But it's a great thing that we do, and we've done it for several years now. And so it's just if you get the opportunity next year around, don't miss to go see and purchase some of those things and give those kids an opportunity to be an entrepreneur. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Argyle. Councilman Euler.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to turn my time over to Kathleen Levitt, President of the Spanish Fork Area Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Council. Brandon, Councilman Gordon, before I get started, I just wanted to tell you how touched I was that you got so emotional about that presentation. I'm a proud 4-H'er, so I lived at the county fair growing up, and it's not just for us now, it's a day type thing, an event, but it really is a lifestyle for those of us that live it, so I appreciate that. And also to echo what you said, the farmers market is going great. It's starting to fill in. Our first week was a little bit light on farmers. They had some issues with the frost and their produce coming in, but we were filled in a lot better this week. We had peaches, which everyone was really concerned about the lack of them last week or the week before, but we have those in, and we had quite a few this week, so we were happy with that, and more should be coming next week. So tomorrow morning, we're excited. Our chamber is partnered with Payson and Santaquin Chamber of Commerce to host Senator Mitt Romney for breakfast. So that's going to be tomorrow morning at 7:30 at the Riverbridge Event Center. And his team actually specifically reached out to our chambers to host an event like this. He's really concerned to hear the concerns and questions of our business community. So this is something that he's initiated, and it's really going to be pretty informal, if I say so myself. We're not planting questions. We really want it to be open to whatever our business community wants to ask him about. So it's going to be kind of fun. We are honored to host him, and we look forward to some productive and stimulating discussion. And then we have noon networking this week as well on Thursday, the 18th. That's going to be at the Hampton Inn and Suites, and it's sponsored by Tabitha's Way Food Pantry. Wendy Osborne and a few other speakers are going to be talking at that about how to use community engagement to attract and retain quality employees. So that should be a really cool one to come and check out if you guys are interested. And that's what the Chamber of Commerce is up to this week. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Then final thing from me, I just wanted to thank Berna Jo again for coming tonight, and just want to echo what she said about our senior center. It closes each summer, gives everybody a chance to take the summer off and get a little rest, but it's open again. Business hours are back to normal. If you're a senior and you want to get out and experience some good company, some good food, then please come down to the senior center. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Marshall.
Just two things on my list, but I'm curious, Brandon, what was the finances behind the sewer plant? How much was it? How much did Mapleton contribute?
So
Just
their
curious.
portion
I can't
is
remember.
20%. So we started out with a bond of 90 million, sort of pre-COVID. Am I correct on that? And now we're looking at, we could get to 120, 130 million, depending. We have help from the Water Quality Board of the state. What else am I missing, Chris?
We also got an ARPA grant.
ARPA.
5 million, so we're hoping for maybe another 5 million.
Some additional ARPA funds.
Okay.
And then 20% of that is paid for by Mapleton.
The bond we did secure was the lowest in our city's history.
In Zion's Bank's history, I think.
Zion Bank, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, you were
0.62?
1.62. Almost the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free
Yeah,
money.
and especially with inflation, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He said it was their lowest rate since Adam.
That's what they said?
That's what they said.
So that was good. That's the good part of, yeah, the project's going up, but locking in that bond rate lower was huge. So, yeah.
I think inflation was like, what, 9% this last year? So that's $10 million you saved by getting it done, started this year as opposed to next year.
Yeah, certainly.
Awesome. Cool. Just
Alder Construction is the contractor building that as well. They're currently working on Provo Cities, and they'll just transition from theirs to ours, but, yeah.
thanks. Appreciate that. Two things for me. Again, we met as a Utah Lake Authority for the first time, kicked that off first of this month. Trying to figure out what the bylaws are, what our authority really is, how we're going to measure ourselves as a group, what are the goals of the lake, that type of thing. So we're working on that for this next couple of months. And then finally, the Arts Council is going to meet Thursday. It's been a while. Thank you, Emily, for getting something together. I know you're not here, but appreciate that. Looking forward to that meeting next Thursday. So I'll report back.
Awesome. Good work. Good work. Okay, I sent Tyler a couple pictures about some painting, some graffiti done on Main Street. Not really graffiti. Okay, we can talk about that one first. Parks and Recreation. Councilman Gordon mentioned the steak fry for all the coaches and everybody that helps with the Parks and Recreation. When I walked into that night, I don't know, this truck looked pretty clean. So I snapped a picture of the Parks and Recreation truck in one of our most beautiful parks up there at Canyon View Park. If you haven't went and experienced that, you're missing out on a cool place in Spanish Fork. But thank you to the coaches, thank you to the directors, thank you to all the volunteers that make the Parks and Recreation work. Again, it lends a huge level of credibility for myself of how a department like that operates to ensure the quality of life in Spanish Fork that we all enjoy. And it's a huge piece of living here. And so thank you to the coaches, and thanks for the good steaks. Thanks for the Parks and Rec department. The Dons, Center Street and Second West. If you don't notice it, they have done this now. This is Abigail Perrins and Jagger Mendenhall. They didn't let Jagger paint. He was a little late for that. You would have probably, but I would have been in trouble because his mom wasn't home that night. But they did a great job. It changes a little bit every year from what it is the year previous. And I don't know, I'm glad Seth reminded me to come down and thank those youth city council, or excuse me, student council at Spanish Fork High for the good work they did on the road there.
He's wearing all that I Love New York shirt.
I know.
We gotta check
Yeah. We should have thrown something over that.
Get him a Don's shirt.
Right? Yeah. But that last picture, I look at that last picture and think, how do you, Councilman Marshall has mentioned before, how do you keep a small town a small town? A couple events like this, places where we can recreate and come together as a community, like the senior center, like the future rec center, like the library, like Fiesta Days. And then once in a while, have just a light hanging over an intersection rather than a real, big light too. Just a caution light that blinks. I don't know if we'll ever get rid of that. Even if this ever becomes a four-way intersection, can we keep that, Mr. UDOT?
No. If that connects to I-15.
Yep.
We can move it.
Maybe we'll move it to a different intersection.
Yes.
Okay.
Put it right out here.
Yeah. It reminds you of the movie Cars, right? Where there's one light blinking in the town.
The fourth blink is faster than the others.
Yeah, that's what Seth said down there. Yeah.
Is it really? Oh.
I was gonna say he would know this.
Watch the movie.
Don't put that in the notes, Ted.
Good night, good work, and these kids are starting to go back tomorrow morning. So be careful. Reminds everybody now, if you don't know, even if your kids aren't in school and you're to the part of life where your grandkids are or no kids are, be on the lookout. Just be careful. It's going to get busy in our subdivisions and neighborhoods, especially around the schools in our subdivisions and neighborhoods tomorrow morning and for months to come. So let's be careful. Let's do all we can to make sure we're watching out for little ones running to school back and forth. The sewer treatment plant, just a quick comment on it. I like that Shane asked that. I love the progress that shows, not that picture, but the Home of Pride and Progress in conjunction with Mapleton City and sharing in a project like this. What I said briefly at that event was these are the necessary projects that make it so our communities can grow, make it so our parks, inside cities can grow, our cities can function. This is a necessity. And no, it's not cheap. It's $130 million, probably more before we're all done. But it's an investment, a generational investment in our respective communities in Mapleton and in Spanish Fork, that if you didn't do something like this, you'd have a hard time for that next Plat to come and next homes to be built, the next people to move into our communities. The technology is so advanced in this that the water that goes in it, it's going down your sink or down your toilet, can be screened well enough to be put back in a secondary system and used on your lawns. That's how safe that water can get. They've even showed that you can get it safe enough for potable water, right? If you needed to. Now, we're not going there. But just as the efforts of what Councilman Gordon mentioned of where this water goes, where it ends up, yes, this is a state-of-the-art plant that will clean wastewater. make it reusable if that's what we need to do here in the desert. So pretty cool stuff. Lastly, Tyler Jacobson and I met with Luke from the U.S. Forest Service. Tyler, do you have a little bit of information? Am I putting you on the spot to talk about what you and I and Luke talked about? This has hit the news a little bit, so it might you might remember of what Tyler and I talked to Luke about today.
So a couple of things that Luke reminded us about. For those of you that don't know, the U.S. Forest Service actually has an office here in Spanish Fork. If you're interested in buying a pass to the national parks, if you buy it here in Spanish Fork, then those proceeds actually go back into the parks, the local parks here. Another thing that he mentioned that we talked through is if you have a fourth grader, they can actually get a free pass to all the national parks. So those of you that have access to a fourth grader, whether it be yours or someone else's, and would like a free pass, talk to the fourth graders and see if they'll give that to you. Another thing that, and I think this was really the intent of the conversation, was we talked about some areas, some specific trailheads in this area of Utah County where the U.S. Forest Service is thinking about charging a fee in order to recreate there. They mentioned the grotto, the hot pots, Mayor, anywhere else that you can think of. I think those were the two main ones, but were there any others that?
Yeah, the rest were on the backside of Payson Canyon, so going up backside and then going down the other Nephi side, a couple of spots there.
So if you have, if you'd like to give any feedback to the U.S. Forest Service, they do have a page that's available. Feel free to reach out to us at the city if you want to make some comments. You can always text us at 801-804-4500, and we can get you that link so you can go in and make comments and see which areas they're proposing to have those fees. Anything else you wanted?
Perfect. Nope, I think that's it. Next Thursday, they did have a public meeting at Payson City Center. So it'll be open next Thursday night if you want to go there in person. But he also let us know the Forest Service right here on 4th North in between 1st and East, or 1st West, right? You can go in there. There's comment cards. You can comment on what you think about the fee schedule that they could be proposing for a couple of those areas up the canyon. So we're grateful to have the Forest Service right here in our city and a good working relationship with them. So we appreciated that. Okay, anything else?
I just want to mention one thing. They mentioned about tomorrow's back to school. Our police officers and our cross guards, they're in need of cross guards. And I know it's just if you have the ability or have the time, I know it's just 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening, but they do need some cross guards. Our officers are taking the time to do that. We need our officers to do their duties. And so if you have an interest of being or just would like to help get our children across these roads safely, you know, our traffic in Spanish Fork is busy, but we want to do that safe. But if you would have an interest in doing that, please you could contact the city and or our police department. Either one would be absolutely tickled to have some more support on our crossing guards. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Argyle. Thanks for that reminder. Okay, item number 6, the consent items.
There's no questions or comments. I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilwoman Beck to approve the consent items. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Consent items are approved. Takes us to item number 7, public hearing. We have 2 public hearings, A and B. The first one is the Oberg annexation for a public hearing.
Mayor and Council, this item is, like you said, the public hearing on the annexation. This is an overview map showing where the Oberg annexation would lie within the city boundaries. You can tell that if it is annexed, it would leave an island. But the county commission has passed a resolution indicating they've consented to that. So that issue would be overcome. But it is, not optimal for city planning or utility planning and things like that. But it would create an island. Let's see, moving a little closer, you can see the site. It's there off of 10th North and Depot Road. This is the proposed zoning for the site, so it's mostly light industrial, but with one parcel remaining in an RR designation. Let's see, what else we got? This is the annexation plat itself. Oop, that's too far. I'll probably just leave it there for now. The Planning Commission and the DRC recommended approval of the annexation. There are two things that maybe are still yet to be finalized, but I think they're close. One is the annexation agreement to address infrastructure and things like that. We received comments from their attorney recently. None of those are huge deals, but I think we can work those out, but it's not yet finalized or signed. The next is an access agreement for the neighboring property, the Oplanalp property right there. So they've proposed an access agreement for them. They provided that. Preliminary indication is that it conceptually agree on that. There's still some details I think they need to work out with that as well. So other than those two things, like I mentioned, the DRC, the Planning Commission, and both recommended approval of the annexation. Any questions?
Any questions for Vaughn before we hear from applicant?
Maybe after.
Thank you, Vaughn. Before we go to public hearing, is the applicant here, would like to speak to this before we go into public hearing? All right, Dave?
I'd like to thank the council and the mayor for looking at this annexation. It's been quite a while in the process, and we've stepped through quite a few things to get to this point. There's been a lot of two families that were affected, the Bursetts and the Alpanalps, and I think that we're to a point that we've got a lot of Dan's is satisfied with coming into the annexation, and then that's all right.
Donuts for everybody,
all right.
not just the council.
Not
That's
okay.
She'll get your name and addresses. He'll send them out.
And then I'm not saying it right, the Alpanalps, we're in the middle of trying to get an access agreement finalized. We're real close. We're real close. And it's sort of in the 11th hour, but I think the gist of it, the developer of the Oberg piece of ground has consented that they will give them a 24-foot access through. The agreement is not finalized. They just got it this afternoon. We've been going back and forth, but it would be my wish, and my wish, not their wish, that we move forward with accepting the annexation subject to the two things, the annexation agreement and their agreement, because we want to make sure that they're taken care of. And I'm sure they can speak on their behalf, but I think we're so close that as far as I'm concerned, I'm the applicant, I'm not the end user. Time is of the essence. We've gone probably a full year here, but I think we're so close that I think we could move forward subject to those two things and make things happen. And the Alpanalps have my word that we'll make it happen as the applicant and co-developer, whatever hat I'm going to wear. Any questions?
Questions for Dave right now? Okay, we might have questions after public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Argyle to go into public hearing for the Oberg annexation. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
We are in the public hearing. Again, public hearings we've done before, but we've got a 3-minute timer that we'll put up there. Just try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We'll let you know when you get close to that, so we can be respectful of everybody's time. Okay, public hearing. Just make sure you state your name for Tara to get.
So I'm Lynn Oplanop. Millie and I own the aforementioned property. And through this process, it has been an arduous process because it's been over a year that we've been discussing this and access, and we wait until 3:30 today to actually present something that's meaningful. I mean, we've been going through this, so I'm very reluctant to move forward until this is finally approved, because the only way we've seen any results is because of a deadline with the city council meeting or anything else. And conceptually, they've given us a drawing and said, are you okay with access through here? Great. I mean, we can look at that, but I still need to meet with the city to make sure that it meets our needs for future. And then our attorneys to review the agreement too. So, I mean, we're quite a ways off. The actual drawing and everything, I mean, this morning it was totally different, and then finally, because of the pressure, they came through this afternoon. So, not against the annexation, but we just need to make sure that all those needs are met, and I would propose that we postpone the approval until that is done. And hopefully we can have that done by next city council meeting. So, any questions on that?
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, well, we can ask questions. Let's close the public hearing before we ask questions. You can call people back up if you want.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name is Dan Burchett. I am the owner of the proposed RR plot. It's a 1 acre property. We've asked to join the annexation, and we do support it. I'd like to know that the Applenaufs are going to be taken care of and that their concerns are met. Being our neighbors, we are concerned about their property as well. We also are concerned for our property because when I've seen the master plan, as far as where the proposed roads are going to go, we're concerned about what our access will look like and what our utilities will look like and how that will affect us. But generally speaking, we do support the annexation. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Okay. Anyone else?
Motion to go out of public hearing.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Argyle to go out of public hearing for this item. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
We're out of public hearing. Discussion up here. Questions and comments?
Do we have a map at all, or did the city receive what the Ablanovs received as far as showing the access?
If we did, it would have been late today, right?
So we as the city haven't received anything
Yeah.
at this point as far as what they want for their access.
Yeah.
The annexation agreement is separate, so I don't know which one you're looking at.
You're wanting to see like the exhibits maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we've received those yet. This was something that we talked about with the applicant in a DRC meeting 2 weeks ago tomorrow, so August 3rd-ish, I think it was. And we informed them that this was a significant issue, and that if they wanted this to proceed forward, having this resolved would be in their efforts and in their best interest to have it done before a council meeting. So I think the applicant, although I certainly am sympathetic to what Mr. Simpson said in terms of their wishes, they've understood this was an issue that was important to you as a council. We expressed that to them 2 weeks ago, so that knowing that there was this council meeting, the opportunity for a public hearing, which I think is good to hold. We've satisfied that requirement of the code. But in terms of having this requirement met, we did inform them 2 weeks ago that it was an important requirement. So.
Good to know.
Thank you, Seth. Anything else?
Lynn, if the access was to your liking, would you guys want to come into the city, or you're staying out of it? At some point, you would want to join the annexation.
And we've met with Seth and Dave and talked some of the logistics we have.
Sorry, Lynn.
You need to come up, my bad.
Come on now.
I'll get better.
So we will come into the city, and that's, we're gonna propose us, but we need to work out our septic tanks, our wells, and water rights, and some of that. That's gonna take some time. So we will be filing to petition to be annexed in the city in the next little while.
Okay.
So,
But, sorry, Lynn, to be clear, that's not the entire island, right?
no, it's not the entire island.
Okay, and.
But the other island, the rest of the island, the other part of the island, all have access from Third West.
Okay, right,
They
good point.
touch Third West.
Good point.
So we're the only one. And it's been expressed to us through the city that they would like to discontinue that railroad crossing, the private crossing. So that's why the access to a city street is important, so. Right, I mean,
Yeah, let me maybe flesh out a little bit what Mr. Applenoff is saying, that he's receiving correspondence from the railroad saying they want the railroad wants him to not have that access anymore. And as long as he's facing that kind of pressure, I think he's got this concern that he may not have that crossing, which is his only way in and out. So I certainly am sympathetic to the concerns that he has. I don't fully believe that the railroad can do some of the things that he's receiving, but that doesn't mean he's not receiving them, and they're feeling those pressures, right? So, yeah.
And I think it's in long-term best interest of the city to have that for future development too, to have access in there, because there's 14 acres back in there. It's just not the house, it's the 14 acres. So at some point, that'll be light industrial, and after I'm long dead, go.
You want to point while you're up there? There's a pointer. Sorry, Tara, did I get you in the eye with that pointer? Well, just to conceptually of, yeah, here's you.
This is our property here. The proposed access.
Go back to the mic and tell the world. Proposed
So the
access is
proposed
what?
access would be in this area between two buildings, but we need to make sure that that's acceptable to the city for future development in our area. Utilities will be stubbed in there because those are all requirements. So there's a lot of work still to be done before we say, yeah, that's going to meet all the needs. So.
Did the planning commission add any conditions as far as access goes? I'm seeing the two conditions that are in the document, but I don't see any conditions as far as related to access. Did that come up?
The recommendation and the information.
Kim, will you come to the
Sorry,
microphone, Kim? You don't need to apologize. Kim knows better.
I should know better. With the staff report that's presented today is inclusive of the discussions with the Planning Commission. And so that is something that they did talk about, but it wasn't a condition.
Okay, they discussed it, but it did not add it as a condition.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm good to table it until it gets taken care of.
I agree.
I know it's been a long road, a year, but hopefully we're 3 weeks away.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Before you act, I want to just restate a concern that at least professionally I need to state going forward, not just this annexation alone, but the creation of an island is a significant issue, and I appreciate Mr. Applenop's comments that he wants to come in. I think as a council, if we, as a city, annex this area, we need to have a serious discussion about not just having the Applenop property come in, but closing that island for delivery of services, access to utilities. It's very conceivable that this makes no sense, but state law makes it very difficult for us to provide utility services outside of our boundaries, and they're surrounded by utilities. So you have the potential for a dual set of power lines on either side of the road. You have sewer right across the street or right in front of their property that they can't use because it's outside of the city limits. When they dial 911, who comes? Our police or the county police. And so with the island being the size that it is, when the Applenops are interested in coming in, it may be a moment where we consider an annexation by resolution, which may in effect force the remaining island to come in. I think that's...
Seth, do you know how many property owners and how many actual residences are in that area?
I don't know the number of residences. I think it's somewhere in the 40 to 45 acre range. Want to say, sorry, what? Oh, sorry, I thought it said 17. I think it's somewhere in the 40 acre range, and I want to say 3 or 4 different property owners, but I'm shooting from the hip on that, so I could be wrong. It's not a very large area. So that I don't think has any bearing on the Oberg annexation, but just in proximity to this. We've talked about this in terms of annexing and leaving islands. State law allows for it if the county approves, which they have, so that's not an issue. But it does create the next question: what do we do with this island, and how or when do we resolve that?
Chris, do we have a master plan, transportation master plan for this area? Yes. We do? And do the roads, have you seen the access that was presented? Does it match what we've got planned for roads out there?
We don't plan at that level.
Okay.
The collector and arterial roads, they're out of the way. So maybe for those at home, Chris said is that we don't plan to the detail level of interior roads. We do more of the major collector types of roads. And so we have a general idea of where we need roads and what kind of connectivity we need, how some of the internal roads happen. We don't plan to that level of development. Usually dictates that according to our standards, distances and things like that.
So have we seen a plan of how they plan to access that large property out west with almost no access today?
That's a significant part of the development agreement, that the Utah West annexation, which was just to the north of this, and the Oberg annexation, both of those development agreements have a significant amount of the language of that annexation agreement is dedicated to that they need to build roads, which may look something like coming from this area and then that way as well. And anything more to add there?
It's in the exhibit to the
Yeah.
annexation agreement. It's like Seth just mentioned.
Yeah.
Just didn't
69 north.
dig deep enough?
Yeah. So those are significant infrastructure issues that they're aware of, that this agreement is recorded as a part of the annexation with all of the properties there. So yeah, it is a major issue, and they're fully aware of that.
Had a phone call today from a friend out here to the west, and we recently ran our sewer line through here, as everybody knows, and I make this comment because of dealing with the railroad. So I called Chris Thompson. I said, hey, there is a gap on this road that needs to be asphalted. And this friend was saying they just watched a semi back down the road with their semi because they couldn't cross the tracks. And it's because the railroad is saying you cannot put that small asphalt patch in until you have one of our flaggers. And I knew this. I knew what a railroad flagger was from, right, Shane, from the road world. A railroad flagger has different certifications than a normal flagger. So the idea of dealing with a closure of that access really does make me nervous if that, in fact, that is, at all an issue to Mr. Oplenop. Anyway, as soon as a flagger comes available, that's the update that I'll give you. The contractor will get this patched for that road down there, but certainly an issue as all of our projects, right, that we tend to come along with the road do have challenges for sure. So.
Is that why that's still closed there? We're waiting for that?
Why don't you call me?
Jeez.
You should have asked me.
Why didn't? I'll have you call
I didn't get it fixed.
I'll have you call the citizen that asked me about it. Okay.
But for that, I agree with Stacy, right? Until we get this issue, and I mean, I think there's protection for both sides. If I hear what Mr. Simpson says when Dave says, "I promise," but I'd rather have something inked before you, because that could be a protection for you as well, right? If the Oplenops change their mind, and then the same thing for them. They need to have all of the securities, and the same thing for Dan, the Burchett's family, right, as well, making sure that it just feels a little rushed today getting it, but that's my comments.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I make a motion to table the Oberg annexation.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Beck, seconded by Councilman Euler on this item. Any discussion on this motion? This is a roll call vote. Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Okay.
And for the record, you probably want a date, or do you just want us to say?
Or, yeah.
Okay. Do you want her to modify?
Yeah, so yes, sorry, that's where I was going with discussion on the motion. One of the conditions was the infrastructure, right? Okay, so annexation agreement.
And access agreement
And access agreement be finalized.
to be finalized, okay.
And I think it'd be our hope that it'd just be the next council meeting.
Okay.
That would be our hope.
Where's that, September what?
7th, 6th?
September 6th.
Okay, September 6th.
Okay. Sorry, you want to modify that motion? We'll do it again?
Oh, you
Redo.
think I'm going to redo? I'll remember any of
Got it.
that?
You got it.
September 6th infrastructure,
Annexation.
annexation,
agreement, access.
access.
agreement.
How's that? Finalized. Are those keywords? Okay.
Yeah. Still like that motion?
Yep.
Still like it, yep.
You deleting? Okay.
Good. Yeah, just add to that.
All right, motion on the table, seconded by Councilman Euler. Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Okay. It's tabled till that next meeting. Okay, 7B, that takes us to the Shelley Subdivision Preliminary Plat and Zone Change. This is a public hearing as well. Hi, Kim.
Hello. I'm covering for Dave today. So this proposal is for a master plan development. The applicant is asking for the zone to be changed from rural residential to R115. The lot sizes will be similar in size to what surrounds it, which is Legacy Farms, and with the townhomes and such, it works well. So I think the Planning Commission and the Planning Commission and the Development Review Committee both recommended that it be approved. Do you have any questions?
It's got a couple of large lots. Do you know what the average lot size for the development is?
I don't know off the top of my head what the lot size is. I know as being a part of a master plan development, they are only able to use a portion of those large lots. But it does meet our requirements for a master plan development with an R115 zoning.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
And he wants it changed to R19.
Yes.
The two pieces below are going to remain farm?
For now, yes. So he wanted to have it R19, so because that is what Legacy Farms is. But in Legacy Farms, because of the size of it, it's dispersed differently, and so R115 was more appropriate to be neighboring what exists today. There is a power corridor that runs through. They have talked about having it be a walkway, kind of like what we have to the north, but the city hasn't made a decision of whether or not they will purchase that.
Okay. Thank you, Kimberly.
You're welcome.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing for this.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Argyle, seconded by Councilman Marshall to go into public hearing. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
We're in public hearing. Anybody would like to speak for the Shelley Subdivision Preliminary Plat and Zone Change?
Hi, I'm Julie Smith, applicant. Yes, the large lots, we did that along Slant Road to keep the integrity of Mr. Bingham and Mr. Ireland, who's just south. So we want to keep that large lot feel that we had there. So that was the reasoning for those large lots there. And then on the east side, we are just continuing the existing subdivision on down. And currently I'm working with Mr. Ireland and Mr. Bingham to continue the subdivision down into their project. So that's still in conceptual phase. We haven't brought that to the city yet.
Okay.
You're saying that continue this now?
Yeah, that's going to come down, and Mr. Bingham and Mr. Ireland's property will develop, and they will maintain their large lots that they have.
Is the building here coming down when you sell a lot, or it'll just be
No,
part
that will
of it?
remain. So that's owned by Mr. Adams, who is the owner and
So he'll
of
keep
this
that
project.
lot?
Yeah, he'll keep that and build a home. The city's asking that he builds a home on Slant Road because the barn is an accessory use to a home, so you can't have it alone by itself.
Great.
This road in your development, will this connect now, or will it?
Now, yeah,
Okay.
so that'll be phase one right there, all those lots. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Before you leave, Julie.
Julie? Shane's got a question.
I have a question for you.
Sorry.
Is our firm connected to this at all?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Gina and I work together, just
Thank
clarify.
you. Yep, thank you for that disclosure. Thank you, Julie, applicant. Anybody else from the public like to speak? Yes, Mr.
Bettis Hill.
Yes.
I'm actually, you can almost see my house in that, so I'm very excited to see that those are going to be homes and not townhomes. So I'm more, I'll approve of that for sure. So thank you.
We got Mr. Hill on the record. He does not like these people here. Is that what you said, Mr. Hill?
I just don't want more of the townhomes.
Oh, okay. Is that
Councilman Argyle, you're pretty close. Where are you at? You're up here?
Oh, yeah, keep going.
All right.
Yeah.
If I could hit a golf ball that far and straight, I could hit that property.
Okay, anybody else from the public? If not, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to go out of public hearing?
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilwoman Beck to go out of public hearing. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
We're out of public hearing. Discussion back up here on this item. Yes, Mr. Brenneman?
I just wanted to correct myself. So the property is zoned R3 and R115, and so they are changing it to R19. So it will be
Okay.
about 9,000, but it will be consistent with the neighboring
With what's
neighborhood.
next
Yep.
to it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Any other questions about this subdivision? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Shelley subdivision preliminary plat and zone change.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Argyle, seconded by Councilman Gordon. I'm assuming that's with the findings that are in the outline here. Looks like 3 findings. 1, 2, 3 findings.
It's one finding, 3 conditions.
1 finding, 3 conditions. There you go. Okay, motion made and seconded. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck?
Yes.
That passes. That's approved. Takes us to item 8A of new business, the Emergency Service Consulting International Contract for Fire and EMS Long-Range Master Plan Services. Mr. Chief Eddie Hales.
Mayor and Council, when I became the Chief of Fire and EMS here, Seth and I had a conversation about a long-range plan for fire and EMS services for Spanish Fork City. After much discussion, we researched and came up that this solution would be best suited for a third-party company to make that long-range plan for us. We went out and looked at several companies, ESCI, which is the company that we will be using. It falls into they're a part of the National Cooperative Procurement Government Contract. They have a contract for services and to provide this type of work for a city of our size. What they will do is, many things are within that contract. I'm sure you've had some time to look at them. But the scope of work to be provided is we will receive a comprehensive plan outlining all facets of the city should plan for over the next 10 to 15 years for fire and EMS response. This will allow for us to determine areas of where stations should be placed with growth, where units should be placed, how staffing should look in the next 10 to 15 years. So this is a great playbook for you as elected officials as well as city officials when making decisions and budgeting for the future for fire and EMS responses. After the discussion that Seth and I have had after reviewing this contract in whole, we recommend that this is the best suited plan for the council to approve tonight and moving forward with that. The project will take about 6 to 9 months once we sign the contract and get moving forward. And the budgeted amount for this and the fiscal impact is just over $48,000, which has already been approved in this fiscal year 2023's budget by council. Any questions?
Will your plan then be to come back and say, hey, look, this is what they came up with? Or would that be more in a setting, say, like our mid-year?
I believe that would be more of a one-on-one with council in a mid-year type of
Okay.
work session or whatnot.
And I don't think we estimate anything will come back like do this now, but more as we look at how do we adjust Station 61 so that we can have people, crews sleeping there overnight? Do you spend the money? Is it best spent upgrading the station as it is, moving it? because growth says you're going to need a station here or there. Before you spend any significant dollars, looking at the city as a whole is really is the better way to go to make sure that you put a station in the right place. So this will give us, I think, as Chief Hale said, a really nice playbook that will just unfold little by little as we go forward.
Seth and I had a conversation about this yesterday. We were talking about it, and he made the comment that how impressed he was since you've been on hired Chief Hales, that everything you've said you were going to do, you've done, and this is just another one of the things that, you guys have had conversations about doing, and so I really appreciate you doing that and taking us in the right direction, so thank you.
Well, we couldn't do it without the support of the council, so all of those things have been accomplished with great support, so I appreciate it.
And maybe to that point, Councilman Gordon, as Chief Hales is doing everything that he's doing, working with building this department, the new department, right, this fire and EMS department, the adjustments that they're making, having his eye on all of the things that he and the crews need to be focused on today is of utmost importance for his day-to-day, and looking at this stuff for tomorrow is easily put off, right? I've got so many fires, literal fires as well as figurative fires, right, that I have to deal with today. Looking at things 10 to 15 years down the road is so easy for us to put off because, well, that can wait until tomorrow. And so having an outside consultant come in that has expertise in this area, they understand standards, they can bring in state standards, state practices, and all those things, really provides us with access to a greater wealth of information than any one individual has, or maybe that's within our department, and allows him to continue doing what he's doing, which is adjusting and making this department perform and function as well as it is right now. So it's really a good thing to have that outside consultant come in.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for staff or Chief Hales? Discussion up here.
I would say that looking through this, there's probably most of these tasks we could have done in-house, the chief could probably do. He has a new deputy chief that could help him through this thing. But you're looking at 300 plus hours that they would have to dedicate to delivering a document like this. That's 300 hours that we're not doing something else that I think is better suited for their time. So while this is not an insignificant amount of money, I think it's worth the investment to get something done in a time frame that we can start implementing it. So I'm pretty supportive.
It's also, I like the idea of consultants sometimes being able to remove some of the rose-colored glasses maybe that we would have of a city. Oh, this would be a great spot for it because I love this spot, and I think it'd be great. Well, maybe the consultant says it's a terrible spot for it, and here's some outside third-party independent reasons why, because we've done this in multiple communities, right? And he's going to back me up on that because
sure is. Yeah, because you said it.
Right, I really appreciate that point, Mayor, purely in the fact of those people that know the Insurance Service Office ratings, right? ISO ratings are very important when it comes to the communities, when it comes to businesses coming into our community, and allocating those fire stations in the appropriate places in the response zones that are required for that ISO rating. It lowers those so that it is more attractive for people to want to come and be a part of this community. So that's a great point, Mayor. Thanks.
I think too, it's not just where we put a new fire station or how we modify a fire station. I mean, they're going to do an organizational overview, which I think is, again, back to your point about a third party looking at it from a different perspective and saying, here's some improvements you can make. You're not going to get that just continually looking internally. So I think it's a good idea.
Yep. Good. Any other discussion on this or a motion?
I'll move to approve the Emergency Services Consulting International Contract for Fire and EMS Long-Range Master Plan Services.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon and seconded by Councilman Argyle. Roll call vote. Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
That's passed. Item 8A is passed. 8B is Second Amendment and restated interlocal agreement for joint and cooperative action creating Mount Nebo Water Agency.
Okay, we're really excited about this. Ever since Mount Nebo Water Agency was created, it was meant to bring together all of the big water players in the south end of the county into one group that could work together for long-range goals and to coordinate the wise use of the water in our area. And there's been one major player that has not been involved in this group, Strawberry Water Users Association. And this invites them in, allows them to be a part of that organization. Since it is a private organization, this is a public entity, they will need to submit 3 options to Central Utah Water Conservancy District, which will then appoint one of those 3 options to serve on the board as a representative of Central Utah. And so it creates that extra position under Central Utah, and then they'll appoint out of Strawberry Water Users. Same exact situation we have with Highline Canal Company, which also sits on the board. In that instance, the county commissioners actually appoint one of 3 options that the Highline Canal Company presents. And so this is a really good thing, brings pretty much all of the major water entities in the south end of the valley together, and I think that's how it should be.
Thank you, Chris. You going to put in for that?
I was going to say, earlier we talked about the 11th hour, and it reminds me of when Mayor Anderson was up here, and we got this thing kind of put
Yeah, that's
together
true.
when he was leaving.
Yeah.
He was influential in getting Nebo, so.
Yeah, that's true. Mount Nebo Water Agency, good co-op between all the water players, and it is a credit to Mayor Anderson and previous people getting some good work done on the ground for that. So, any other questions about this? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve second amended and restated interlocal agreement for joint and cooperative action creating Mount Nebo Water Agency.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Euler, seconded by Councilman Marshall. Roll call vote, Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilman Argyle.
Yes.
Okay, item 8B passes. 8C, DuPont, let's see, a membrane bioreactor equipment pre-procurement change order 1.
That's after I told them to simplify the name. So you know. But basically, we have a system of treating the sewage, and in that system, we had a pipe coming from each of the different tanks, and there was 5 or 6 of these pipes coming in to a return pump system. And as we did some value engineering with the contractor and the suppliers, it became apparent that it would be better for us to overflow these 5 tanks into one area that had 3 larger pumps pumping from, which could be redundant to each other. So you could have 1 or 2 out and you still have 1 pump pumping in, instead of where the old system, if any of the pumps went out, then that tank that it was pumping from would basically it would stop the system. So this is a much better, more redundant system, but those 3 larger pumps are a bit more expensive, along with the overflow than the I think it was 6 smaller pumps. And so that's the $78,000 change. The $97,000 change is when we selected DuPont's film tech system for our cartridges that would filter out the sewage water. As part of their proposal, there was $97,000 worth of recommended spare parts that we keep on hand for when things break or we need to add to. And so after a final review of all that spare part list, our consultants are recommending that those the cost of that are fair and that those would be needed for our operations of the plant. And so that is just adding that part of their original bid into their contract.
So was that like an option we could use?
Yeah, we had the main contract for all the membranes, and then this was offered up as an option. We awarded back, we want to get the membranes coming, And so we awarded the membrane part and got those ordered so that they'd be here in time, and then started the review of that option. And so this is now coming after that review.
JB Weld and duct tape, is that not?
That's what Dennis Sorensen used to keep on there.
Yeah.
He didn't keep 97.
Probably half of the 97,000 is JB Weld, and the other half is duct tape.
Good.
I remember when we first started talking about the updating that and seeing pictures shown of, hey, this is really serious stuff, trying to hold some stuff together with getting its useful life as far as we possibly can. So we've done that with the sewer plant.
Yeah, we really have.
Thank goodness for JB Weld.
Okay, any discussions, questions about this item? If not, I'd entertain a motion on 8C.
I move to approve membrane bioreactor equipment pre-procurement change order 1.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Marshall, seconded by Councilman Argyle. A roll call vote. Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilman Argyle.
Yeah.
Councilman Euler.
Yes.
8C is approved. Takes us to 8D, Electric Park Change Order Number 3.
Okay, we pay for our parks mostly through impact fees, and one thing that we've done is tried to construct a park as the impact fees come available to do it. When we started Electric Park, we had a certain amount of money, and so we did the base phase 1 of the park. We awarded that bid. Now funding has come available, which we anticipated, but wanted to make sure to do phase 2, which includes a dog park, a 12-foot concrete pathway or a trail around the park, 2 pickleball courts, a basketball court, and some interior concrete around the playground. And so what we've done, this CMGC type contract, I believe that this would complete out the park, and I don't believe there's any more items to this, but I'm not real familiar with the park, to tell you the truth.
It's coming along. I'm seeing some awnings for it'll be for the picnic areas and stuff, sitting there on site.
Yeah.
So Chris, this is impact fee completely funded.
Correct.
We couldn't move this money to, say, a rec center.
It's a great question. Probably not. There are some elements of a rec center that we think are impact fee related and eligible, but only those elements that pertain to it being bigger than what our pool was before. So because there isn't a rec center, you can't use impact fees to build the first one. You can only use impact fees to build subsequent ones associated with growth. So if our pool that we have or had is too small for the community and you want to make it 15%, 20%, 50% bigger, you can apply impact fees to that percent.
Okay. Certainly not $1.2 million.
Correct.
Okay.
Did you ask if we could move the funds?
I didn't ask that yet, but that was my intent. So the answer was no.
Okay. I was just going to say that we've put this park off. They have the stuff sitting in storage, all the equipment and all the playground stuff. We put it off for the All Abilities Park, and we put it off another time, just I don't know for what, but yeah, we need to get this park done.
It looks pretty close. It does look like it's on its way, so. Any other questions for Chris? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion on 8D, Electric Park Change Order Number 3.
I move to approve Electric Park Change Order Number 3.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Beck, seconded by Councilman Argyle. Roll call vote, Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilman Argyle.
Yes.
Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Okay, item 8D is approved, takes us to item 8E, adopting an ordinance, adopting Chapter 15-328 of the City Code pertaining to agricultural protection areas.
Mayor and council, if you'll recall, you held a public hearing on this ordinance in July 12th, but you tabled the decision that night to address some of the comments and concerns that were raised during that meeting. I took notes of those and have basically revised the ordinance based on those, and we go through those concerns. The size that night was discussed in detail, and 20 acres seemed to be the direction that I was given, and so I drafted that into this agreement. With each project being, or each acre in those 20 acres as the minimum size being included in Greenbelt. So that's also in there. Drafted a new purpose section, consistent with some notes we received from Rex Larson, and so that's in there. Benefits section, kind of reciting what the benefits of the state code provide. Let's see what else. Included the definition of agri-tainment, so including corn mazes, so that is also in the definition of agriculture production. Clarified that the evaluation criteria, that no single one is going to be sufficient to create it, but also no single one criterion is required. So it's kind of a overall look at all of the criteria. So I revised the ordinance based on those concerns. And then just today I received a copy of some proposed edits that Jackie Larson had put together. And I can go through those that she's proposed generally, or one, she's expanded the purpose section quite a bit, and the areas, she indicated she prefers 5 acres. The edits also eliminate the evaluation criteria of the master plan facilities. I think that one's significant. Expanded the section on benefits. Basically, I don't think we should do that change, because I think we need to refer to the state law. Whatever those benefits are at any given time, they might change over time. We should refer to that. I don't think that the city can expand or take away any of those benefits that the state law confers. So I'd rather just simply refer to the benefits and protections that the state law provides by reference.
So on this would, upon being passed, this would be available for anybody within our city limits and/or future annexations.
Yep.
As we would go forward.
As long as they meet those criteria, the minimum acreage and other things. Then that's a decision. Remember the whole process we discussed last time, that the advisory board, the planning commission make their recommendations, and then the council can choose to approve an ag protection area or not.
So question, so say somebody's already in the Utah County protection.
Right.
What happens, so they annex into Spanish Fork City, does that change?
That doesn't change their status in an existing one, no.
It's an existing, so it
No.
would just stay under that?
Yep, it could stay there as long as they want to stay there.
Okay.
And the county's minimum requirement is 40, is that correct?
In their ordinance, it was 40 acres, that's right. Any other questions about the ordinance?
Nobody not in Spanish Fork city boundaries would qualify, or could they request, I guess, to be in our annexation or in the agricultural protection area?
Not without being in our city, no.
Okay.
No.
They'd have to be in the county one, yeah, and that's available,
That's a good question.
Just clarification on, thank you, Jackie, for what you emailed. Thank you for, responding to, us forwarding that email to Yvonne and
Thanks.
communicating that. But you mentioned 5 acres just now, but that's not what your recommendation is.
No, I think my recommendation would be at least 20. I mean, honestly, my recommendation would be whatever's, could support farming in a consistent way.
Okay.
I would probably do 40 if it were up to me.
I just heard that her recommendation, and I wanted to make sure it was clear that her recommendation was 5.
That's what I read in the email.
Change it, right,
Yeah.
in.
That's what I heard.
That hasn't been changed in this, right?
No.
It's still reflecting 20.
Yeah, she didn't make the change. She highlighted it, but it wasn't changed in the text.
Okay.
I think that's still something you need to decide.
Thank you, Vaughn. Any other questions for Vaughn? or
Wait.
city staff?
So currently as written, the changes that Jackie submitted are not.
They're not in
the-
there,
Not
no.
in there. So we approved this today. It would not include anything that we had
That's-
seen from her today.
Right, it was based on what I got from you all after the public hearing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Vaughn, if we approve this today and we decide something needs to be changed, how quickly would we be able to change that?
You have to do a planning commission public hearing and notice, so would it be, what, Kim, maybe a month or 6 weeks to do a Title 15 amendment?
And that can happen as often as we need it to.
As
At
all the
future
time?
council or any, yeah, certainly.
But if someone didn't meet, if somebody wanted to apply to this and we passed an ordinance this way,
Yeah.
and they met other criteria and maybe missed one of the things,
It-
we're the body that can make a decision
Sure.
and say, well, that looks like agricultural to me.
Right. That's totally
and-
within
and-
your
And so it
purview.
fits, we can grant that access.
Yeah, one thing I love the way that Vaughn has worded this, as well as he explained it there. He's given you selection criteria, he's given you evaluation criteria, he's not given you mandates.
Right.
And so as you look at those criteria, you evaluate how this particular area meets the intent of what this ordinance, this protection area is meant to have. But not any one criteria carries the day all by itself, and not any one criteria dooms it, if you will. So you can evaluate every project on the whole, every area on the whole. And again, I think highlighting what Vaughn added from your comments in the last meeting, that purpose statement is this is, the reason for why we're doing this. Is one, this is an instrument that the state allows for, and then two, as you consider providing the protection for agriculture production within the community.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Vaughn.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the time, energy from staff and landowners meeting together to come up with this language for us. And I believe that the proposed ordinance language is a good start. And if we need to make changes in the future going forward, we can do that.
Again, it's already been said in this meeting, but the stress to the citizens of the commitment level of agriculture in the south end of Utah County is something that I think we lead a pretty good pack on. Commissioner Gardner made mention the other day of, that's why the county fair is here for a long, long time down in this area, end of the county, because all the history and continuance, if you will, of ag down here has a long lifespan into the far future. So we hope that's the case, and we hope this makes it that much easier to do that, if you will, right?
I think it's worth noting that having agriculture in the city hasn't been hard either.
Sure.
Right? Going backward, we've had a lot of large tracts of land that have been farmed for many, many years, and they've been successfully farmed. So I don't think this issue came up because there was something that was broken in terms of ag being able to happen, but as some of the applicants or some developments were happening around ag production, the concerns were raised of, hey, with a lot of new residents coming in, what if they were to express a concern about us swathing all day long and bailing at night, and what impacts that may have if their baby wakes up because we're bailing at 2 a.m. And good concerns is you have some of that urban and farm interface, and so really the focus was on ensuring for that production farm that if there are nuisances that are raised by some external party, they have some protections that are given by state laws and also protected here in our city laws. So that really was the impetus, and I think we appreciated the feedback that we got from those parties involved in those discussions. It was very productive.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion, questions on item 8E?
Sorry, I just couldn't remember if there was a fee associated with the application
There
process.
should be, yeah,
The fee will be established
in the budget.
Okay, so we don't know yet. That's why it's not in here. Or is it and I missed it?
No, it's not in the
Not
Okay.
in there.
I guess from that enforcement issue, Chief has an enforcement officer, just like he does all other things of complaints of us having to resolve things. If this was protection and everything else would have to go through.
Yeah, really, it's not so much from on our end, it's more maybe from a civil end in
Gotcha.
terms of them having those protections. If somebody were to call the police and say, hey, go stop them from, cutting their hay or baling or whatever, we wouldn't do anything with that. But if they were to go to the courts with some kind of an injunction or action, as I understand the state laws in this, it does give them a different defense than they have without this ag protection area.
Okay.
I guess my only follow-up comment to my question is that we would probably just mirror similar ag protection fees, right?
Oh, yeah, it's
Whatever.
What we try to do is just make it a function of cost. And so we sit down and say, staff's going to spend, Kim Brenneman's time, 30 minutes, and Dave Anderson, and it just really becomes a
I
formula.
just don't want it to be discouraging either.
It won't be.
I
yeah.
know. Okay.
Yeah, it won't be.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
My deep sigh
Sure.
warns you that I had a comment.
Yep.
This has been an interesting conversation to have had over the last, 3 months now? A while. It doesn't feel like we're going to get this exactly right, whether we would do it today, next week, 2 months from now. I feel like we need to get something in place to start the ball rolling, and then work the policy, work the ordinance, and see if it's working for us and the landowner. If it's not, let's talk about it later. But I think we could do this again and again and again and not get to a place where we have something on the books that someone could utilize. It sort of reminds me of the conversation we have about TDRs and river bottoms, just like this perpetual conversation and no action. Well, I don't know that I fully support everything in there. I support moving forward so that we can flush out any of the issues that we have as we utilize the ordinance instead of just talking about it in theory. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right.
And that body that does discuss that is us eventually, right?
Yep. It's not one bite at the apple.
This is your ordinance. I mean, these are your laws.
Okay. Okay. Heard you almost had a motion maybe in that area. Oh.
Do we want to take a comment?
Come on, Mayor. Well, I mean, you only served, I guess a decade and a half to the city.
Now's your chance to
Gets
tell
here.
him no.
30 seconds for every.
The only,
There it is.
the only
7
thing I
minutes.
would request, because, Wayne Anderson, the only thing I would request is that the landowners have an opportunity to have a couple of representatives sit down with your group as you work this out. Yeah, I just heard that it's your ordinance and so on, but it affects us as landowners. So I would respectfully request that a couple of people be able to sit down with you as you make up this ordinance.
Appreciate that.
Like that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor.
You know, I assumed that we would be making changes because of the feedback that we were getting from the property owner, so I completely agree with you. Which is rare for me to completely agree with you.
Well, anybody. Is it just you?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Shane. Councilman Marshall. Anything else? If not, I'd entertain a motion on 8E.
Motion to approve ordinance adopting Chapter 15.3.28 of the City Code pertaining to agricultural protection areas.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Argyle, seconded by Councilman Gordon. This is a roll call vote. We'll start on this end. Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilman Argyle.
Yes.
Item 8E is approved. It passes. Okay, if there's nothing else to come before this body, we are down to number 9.
Motion to go into closed session for land transaction and reasonably imminent litigation.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilwoman Beck to go into closed session. Roll call vote. Councilwoman Beck.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilman Argyle.
Yes.
Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Thank you. We're adjourned. Appreciate it. Thanks for hanging with us.
the notice?